I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for holding this hearing today on what is a very important issue. I must say that the Navy's latest decision on this program took me by surprise, and I've had a very helpful opportunity to talk to some of the members of this panel as well as to other experts. But like many of my colleagues, I've not yet reached a final decision on the Navy's proposal. And since that decision is upon us, since language is included in the omnibus, I very much welcome this opportunity today to better understand the Navy's rationale for this change in its strategy. Both the Secretary and Admiral Roughhead have said that this plan is good for our shipbuilding industrial base. And as all the members of this panel, as well as my colleagues on this committee know, preserving the industrial base is a major concern of mine and a major concern of the Navy's. So let me start by first exploring that issue with you, and I'll start with you, Admiral Roughhead. When the Navy announced last year that it was going to hold an LCS down select competition and cease to build the two different designs, it stated that the winning shipbuilder would build 10 ships in the near term, and then there would be a second competition that would be held by the Navy to introduce a second source shipbuilder. And a number of Navy shipbuilders, including Bath Iron Works in my home state, relied on the Navy's announced plan and thought that they might well end up competing to be that second source for the ship that was produced as a result of the down select. And the reason that this is important to our shipbuilders is many of them, including BIW, are looking out and seeing gaps in their workload and the potential of being able to build some of the littoral combat ships would help fill in some of those gaps. Under the Navy's new proposal, however, the Navy will continue to build both designs with the two current shipbuilders, and there's no longer a definitive plan or commitment by the Navy to introduce competition by other shipbuilders in fiscal year 2012, which had been the original plan. Now, I understand that the case that you're making for the new plan, and I understand the advantages that it could have, including certain cost advantages. But I'm concerned that you're removing an opportunity for more volume to help fill in those gaps for other shipbuilders that had hoped to build LCSs in the future and now are unlikely to have the opportunity to do so. So that's a long introduction, I realize, to my concern. But given your new proposed strategies, what specific actions will the Navy's leaders take to preserve shipbuilding volume and stability at critical shipyards like BIW if it now appears that they're not going to be involved in building the littoral combat ships? And I ask this in particular because of my concern that we still don't have the DDG 1000, the second and third ship, under construction contracts, even though they've been fully authorized and appropriated, and in view of my concern about the low level of procurement on the DDG 51, a concern that I know you share. So, Admiral, if you could address that concern on how you plan to preserve shipbuilding volume and stability necessary for for our shipyards if you go this new route?
Yes, Senator, thank you for the question. And in fact, even if we go with the 20-ship option that we're talking about here, that's only about half the ship class. So our commitment is to continue to build LCS to get to the target of 55 that we need. So there's more shipbuilding that will go on as a result of LCS. Not an operational factor for me, but I also believe that the designs of the ships and the flexibility in the ships also, and also the cost of these ships, open up potential for foreign military sales that would otherwise not be there. And then on top of that, the savings that we derive, because we look at our shipbuilding account in its entirety, these savings also enable us to look at how we can shift around other procurements that we may need because we've realized these savings.
I guess my concern is if you have the two current shipbuilders, each building 10 ships, and I understand the advantage if you can get 20 ships for the cost of 19, that is powerful, but it seems very unlikely to me that other shipbuilders are going to be able to come in at that point. That's very different from a down select that produced one ship design. The first shipbuilder would build 10, and then it's a toss-up or an open competition. It's very different if you're going with 20 ships, 10 at each shipyard, and it seems to me that does make it unlikely for others to bid in the future. But let me go to the second point about cost and ask the Secretary and you both this question. The Navy has asserted that the dual award strategy not only adds stability to the LCS program, but will produce savings that could benefit shipbuilding programs as a whole. And earlier this year, as you're all aware, both the Senate Armed Services Committee and the House Armed Services Committee expressed concern in our committee reports that the procurement rate for destroyers is insufficient. If the Navy's large surface combatants continue their historical average service lives of 25 to 30 years, we are never going to reach the Navy's goal of 88 large surface combatants. And furthermore, if you look at the independent Perry and Hadley panel, which reviewed the QDR, that panel recommended a fleet of 346 Navy ships. And Admiral Ruffhead, every time we've talked, you've always been careful to say 313's the floor. And so I suspect that higher number is not really a surprise to you. And these are actual requirements. This isn't pie in the sky. These are to meet our military presence and requirements. So my question for both of you, and Secretary Mavis, we'll start with you. Do you believe that the change that you're proposing for the LCS program will make it easier for you to address the budget shortfalls facing the shipbuilding budget?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, the savings that we get from the proposed dual buy, as Secretary Stackley said earlier, we would propose taking those savings and keeping it in shipbuilding so that we can procure more ships for the same amount of money over the next 5 years. And I know that you just said, and Admiral Ruffhead and I share your concern, both on the industrial base, that we keep these critical skills in our shipyards, because shipbuilding skills tend to be unique, and if you lose those skills, they're very hard, if not impossible, to regain. Secondly, as this committee has authorized, the DDG 51 line has been restarted because it is one of our crucial platforms. It's one of the most flexible platforms that we have. And it's particularly true since the President has given the Navy the mission of being the first anti-ballistic missile defense in the phased adaptive approach. We're the first phase, the Aegis system that goes on the DDG 51. So it would certainly be our hope and our recommendation that any savings we get from this program of LCS go back into building more of other classes of ships.
Admiral Ruffhead, do you want to add to that or give me a similar commitment that the savings would be not diverted for other purposes, but help meet the shortfall that is so clear in the shipbuilding budget?
Yes, Senator, I am committed to force structure. I think I've been consistent with that during my time as the Chief of Naval Operations. And I'm also very focused on the need for recapitalizing the combatant fleet when we get to the 20s. That is an issue that I would submit is bigger than the Navy, because it's about our ability to field that type of force as part of our national interest. It's also significantly important to our industrial base, and what will we be doing as the ships that we built in numbers in the 80s age out. And key to that, one of those large number drivers are our combatants, the DDG 51s. And so what is the strategy that we as a Navy and we as a nation have to take forward into the 2020s?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Collins, I just have one, starting round two, just really one additional question. There's been the question of the additional operating and support costs of operating two different ships here. And